Today, we're getting the wisdom and insight from an experienced video game and film composer and multi instrumentalist, Ben Elliott. Ben, thanks for joining me today.
Hello, hello, John. It's a pleasure to be on here. I'm always happy to chat and talk with cool cats.
Why don't we start with what are you working on now?
Right now, actually, very recently, I've started to do a lot more things on YouTube, creating a bunch of shorts on various instruments and things like that. You mentioned the multi instrumentalist part. The thing is, I collect a lot of strange and kind of obscure musical instruments like the claviola, harpeggi, bass taisho goto, a bunch of very unique things that don't have a lot of documentation. And recently, because there is a lack of documentation, I've been trying to create and produce video content talking about those instruments. So like cataloging what they can do, cataloging, some of their history and what exactly they can be used for in music. And it's just something that I've been trying to do because I have a fascination with these instruments that aren't really things that you would typically see in either traditional orchestration or even just like regular band stuff.
So, you're almost turning into a historian now.
I mean, I just have a little bit of a fascination with this stuff. Like I have there's this one instrument. It's a keyboard violin called a ukiyo. It's made by Suzuki, but there is hardly any documentation on it at all in English, Japanese. It's just not out there. So I've been trying to catalog information about it and show how it can be utilized as an instrument because it's very cool. It's like, have you ever heard of an instrument called a nickel harpa?
No.
So a nickel harpa is a Swedish keyboard violin. So it's got keys in your left hand and a violin bow and strings in your right. And the way the ukiyo works is it kind of reached the same conclusion, but it has a totally different historical origin. Um, so hold on, there's kind of like a rabbit hole here I can talk about. So it starts off with the Japanese instrument called the koto, which is traditional like plucked strings, like one of the most traditional Japanese instruments you can think of, which itself has origins back to the guzheng, which is a Chinese instrument. So history and history and history on that. But around the early 20th century, during the Japanese Taisho era, an instrument was developed called the Taisho Goto, which is a keyboard koto, Taisho era koto. And so on the left hand, it's got these keys, and on the right hand, you've got, these strings that you strum and play kind of like a guitar. And for years, that instrument developed until I believe around 2001, Yamaha created this variation of the instrument where they were like, what if we put violin strings on here? And so it kind of created this system where on the left hand, you've got these keys like a piano keyboard, and on the right hand, you've got a bowing string like progression. And it's just this very cool and unique instrument that I've never seen anyone else talk about. And I've been trying to document it and show its use cases.
How did you get into that? Like, what was the first weird instrument you got?
Oh gosh. I guess it depends on what you define as weird. I mean, I was already collecting fairly standard instruments like a glockenspiel. right back here you can see like a mark tree, but also back there you can see a spiral didgeridoo and some canary chimes. So those. Oh, oh, this 1 second. This is probably the first weird instrument I've got. It's called a Miro box, and that is a MIDI controlled music box. It's uh, it's from a Taiwanese company, and it is the first and only music box that you can hook up a MIDI controller to and play a music box live with. So you can press a key down on a keyboard, and a real physical chime from a music box will play along with it. It's pretty cool.
That is cool. I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah, again, it's just like this really obscure thing. I think it was kickstarted some years back, and it's been developing and iterating. There's an even newer version right now that, like this one I just showed you, it's got a capacity for 20 notes, and now there is a 40 note version that you can technically buy. So if you really want some serious range on a music box, you can now have that as an instrument that you can possibly play in live shows or record in a venue or something like that. It's pretty rad stuff.
Do you have a favorite instrument out of all of them?
Claviola. So that's a so the claviola is a really, really fascinating instrument. It was created by Ernst Zacharias, the creator of the clavinet. If you've ever heard of that instrument, it's this perfect keyboard instrument for funk. Like Stevie Wonder played it or plays it. It's just like this really cool instrument that was created decades back. And in the mid 1990s, I think around 1996, for about 6 weeks, Horner, the company that does like melodicas, created this keyboard clarinet type instrument based off a design by Ernst. So you press down a key and you blow into this pipe, and it emits a sound of a clarinet, a very soft, mellow tone that is exceedingly different from a melodica and exceedingly different from just about any other keyboard instrument on the planet. And they made about 100 of them. They produced about 100 of them for a couple of weeks, and then they stopped. Just full on. They did not make any more in the world. And I incorporate that instrument a lot into my music. I spent a couple years hunting it down. I have a whole story on that one where I had to coordinate with a guy, and it's it, getting that instrument was a little bit of a journey.
Wow, that's fascinating. Is there anything else on your wish list that you're hunting down now?
A lot of the stuff that I am searching for and attempting to incorporate into my music now kind of comes down to custom handmade instruments. At the moment, I'm looking into some more things like a baritone ocarina. Ocarina is something that I'm currently sort of searching for and thinking about having developed and built for me. But really, I'm just kind of on the general hunt for like weird things that fascinate me because I, I love hearing the stories and history of like what was the process in this being created? What were you trying to achieve? And what can it do? Like, can it be incorporated? What was the intended use for it? Can it be used and featured in other styles of music. Like, I mean, you think about like for instance, the clavinet, like I mentioned, that was meant to just be like an electrified version of a clavichord, very like kind of stuffy classical type music, and it was utilized in funk, in a lot of like 70s like deep in the pocket like groove music. So seeing what these kind of unique pieces of music creation can do deeply fascinates me.
Have you ever made or considered making sample libraries or contact instruments out of them?
So yes, yeah, I mean, I, in particular, I really kind of need to have the claviola sampled in some capacity because yeah, I mean, it's so obscure that if it doesn't get sampled in some way, there's a potential for that history to be lost. Um, I've worked with sample library companies in the past, creating demos and other things like that, like with Triumph Audio. I know you've interviewed Kevin, tremendous guy, and it is something on my mind to have done in some capacity because I do have a couple instruments that have never been turned into a virtual instrument. The claviola, the ukiu. Right behind me, there's another instrument called a bass taishogoto, which is a really cool instrument that I have seen like no one else talk about. It's like a keyboard guitar with a keyboard bass as well. It's got a pretty cool range to it, and it's like no one's talking about it, and it's never been sampled.
So, my professional background is in software development, and I've done some contact KSP programming. So, if you ever want to try and build something, I'm down to help.
That would be super dope, man. I'm down to. I mean, let's talk after the interview. Like that could be super fun, man. That could be super fun.
So, speaking of Triumph Audio, I did meet Kevin Manthei. He was gracious
Yes,
enough to give me some time. I was
he's
curious
amazing.
how you got involved with doing that demo.
Well, so I think it was 2022 at the NAMM show in Anaheim. I just ran into Kevin and we spoke for a bit, and like I was a I am and was and in every capacity a fan of what he's done, like Invader Zim, all these amazing shows that I watched when I was a bit younger, and his stuff was just super inspiring, and so I would follow him like on social media, see what he posted, and then at some point he reached out to me and it was like, would you like to create a demo and or like do some stuff here and there? And it's been wonderful. I think I've at this point created demos for about 10 of Triumph's libraries. Also some video related things like Super Bang Ball just came out, and I cut together a trailer promo for that. So it wasn't just audio production. I did video editing, narrating, and I scored it as well. Kevin provided the visuals and everything for that, B-roll and other things related to that, and I cut it together, narrated, and just put it out there. Well, it was put out there on their social media.
That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
I've been fascinated with just how small the industry is and just how interconnected everyone is and
Oh, yeah.
how important it is to just know people.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, so like as like a side thing, I I run the game audio at GDC Discord server, and that's meant to coordinate a lot of game audio or composers attending the Game Developers Conference every March in San Francisco. So I end up like touching base with a couple hundred different composers every year at that conference and trying to like do things like connecting and balancing and juggling all that kind of stuff together. It's a very fun experience.
Yeah, you went this year too. How was that?
Oh, sorry, I think you cut out for a moment.
You went this year too. How was that?
Oh, it was wonderful. I've been attending every year for some years now. It's always a great time, and it's a great time to meet and hang out with all of these tremendous composers in the industry. And I've gotten a chance to do a little bit of talking, not on a panel or anything like that, but I coordinated with a couple other like tremendous people this thing called CarouselCon, which is a Wednesday afternoon meeting where composers, sound designers, audio people can come together and chat about the state of the industry. A totally open soapbox that's been running for years now, and it's kind of just got this like wheel of like people who come in and help host it. You know, if one person can't attend, then the baton might be passed on to the next person and everything like that. It's a great way to like touch base with a lot of the tremendous people in this industry.
Anything memorable about this year's Carousel Con?
Well, I mean, there's always just tremendous like people talking and coordinating and like just giving like their perspective on the industry because a lot of it's been a little bit of a tumultuous time in the game industry at the moment with all of these layoffs and people dealing with the impact of like the economy and other things like that. Mm-hmm. So in a way it's a good thing to be able to like just come out and talk and have a soapbox, see what your perspective is on things and the state of the industry.
When it comes to your work for clients, do you get a chance to use all of these interesting instruments, or do they want more traditional stuff?
Oh, I always try and incorporate like these instruments into whatever I possibly can. Sometimes it's not appropriate for like the project or things at hand, but like if if I can, I absolutely will. Like this past this past December, I had this really fun experience scoring this art installation for this company called Arctic House. It was their big holiday show, and the audio was spatialized in 3D, so there was like a lot of like a lot of like pressure to like do like a lot of like big audio stuff in it, and I I made sure because of the claviola's sweet tone, like its sweet, like warm kind of woody tone, that I would incorporate that as the main melody instrument for like this big Christmas music I was making. So like throughout this, it was about a 25-minute score. There's this recurring melody and reference that is all played on the claviola, and it's it was featured in 3D, which I don't think the instrument was ever spatialized that way before at this point. So it was kind of like this fun little experiment.
Do you make sound effects and stuff too very often?
Oh well, if I need to, like for this for some of the stuff that I've done with this company Arctic House, I've I've done both the scoring and the sound design, and that is a unique prospect because it's it's 3D sound, so it has to have a lot, a lot, a lot of layers because if you're standing in one corner of a room it can't sound barren or thin. It needs to envelop you physically. So, like, this past January, I did this project where I uh, had to get some zipper sound effects, and it was timed to this very specific animation. So I had to make very bespoke, very notably timed like zipper sounds, and I had to layer them about, I think it was about 8 times to make sure that it had like the depth and richness needed to fill out the room. And it that kind of thing has to be done with a ton of the sound effects for these productions. Like there might be 21 layers of like a certain moment, and it's, you can't go thinner because it needs that sort of like thickness and depth to fill out such a wide range of speakers and sounds. And the same goes for like the music itself. Like it can't just be one synth pad. I might have to layer like 3 others. I might have to layer 8 others. And there was a whole journey with delivering like sounds like that for like the project, because it all had to be uploaded online, because I'm in Southern California and these productions are on the East Coast. So I was uploading about 150 gigabytes of data every single day for each iteration, and it was putting my Google Drive to the test. I'll say that.
That sounds like a really fun project.
Oh, it is. Like art installations are a very interesting little niche. A bit different from game audio, but it kind of goes back to some of my earliest roots, because back in college I did theater audio. So like I would do it, not musicals. I would do like plays and theatrical productions that would need sound effects and underscoring, and it's it's just like any other form of media scoring or media sound design, just for stage and live spaces. And it's a unique prospect. It's kind of like scoring or creating audio for TV, in that it's got this rapid turnaround, but also it's got a smaller audience, so it's not as good. I shouldn't say that, but like it's like a theatrical production might have like 1,000 people in a room, compared to like a TV show which might reach a million people. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
When it comes to doing a game or a film, what is your process like there?
well, I mean, it would depend on the needs of the production and the team and the time uh, for what we have. Like, if, like, for instance, I had a production earlier this year where I needed to do 80 seconds of music and sound design, and I had to have it done in less than 12 hours. So it was doing basically all of the audio in this production, 80 seconds, 12 hours, and I just kind of went. It was it was this very rapid and kind of like from the gut production, because I didn't have any like notes. It was for this last minute thing where the show is going up very quickly. We need it done very quickly. Can you just provide something? So for that, I got a little weird with it. I brought out some pan flutes, tin whistle. I got my harpeggi involved, which is that's a 24 string guitar that's played like a keyboard. Very interesting instrument. And I did a bunch of like Foley sound effects. My neighbors hated me because I got the call for this gig at 6 p.m. at night, and they said 12 hours, so I had to do all this stuff in the middle of the night, basically. uh,
You're pretty much just improvising it live at that point.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I had video, I had visuals, so I could just I knew like the beats and the aspects and the elements going on, and I think I'm half decent at like discerning like the beats and like where music needs to hit or play or be factored in when like visuals are on the screen. It's something you pick up when you do like a lot of media scoring and scoring to picture. Like, okay, that's 30 seconds here, that's 45 seconds there. We need a different emotional turnaround at the 70-second mark, other things like that. So like that's something I think I'm half okay with. I think so. I'm able to like make markers and note like do this, do this, do this there, and I can kind of like subdivide it into different little elements that I can chip away at, and that's just something I did for that project.
Do you have any tips on marketing yourself and finding work?
Whew. Well, that's always a tough thing because like every year, every few months, it seems like it changes. Like the past year, Twitter has kind of it sort of imploded. So I wouldn't necessarily 100% suggest to someone start a Twitter account at the moment, but there are other avenues. Like lately, I've been developing more stuff on YouTube, like I mentioned earlier. I think if you can create shorts in particular, that is a pretty like sustainable thing. Like 60 seconds of a video showing your process or what you do or what makes you you. I think that can really humanize like your creation and your creative process, which I think is important, because like we're not just we're not just like inhuman people creating things behind a screen. Like we've all got individual thoughts and what we're trying to do. Like I made this decision here because I thought of X, Y, and Z. And if you can provide that perspective, I think it can be interesting and unique and, provide insight. I mean, I certainly watch those types of videos, so maybe that's just my bias, but it's also like if there's some kind of interest there, I think it's useful.
Is there anything else you wish you knew before you started in this industry?
I mean, I always wish I knew more, man. Like I, I, I mean, this goes all the way back to like being a being like a student in school. Like I always wish I started like creating and composing music earlier. Like because I was always told like you need to know an instrument before you can write for it, which I think really isn't true. Not necessarily. I mean, if you can create like cool sounds and create like cool different like aspects and elements and pieces of things, you don't necessarily need to know like a piano or a guitar or anything like that inside and out before you can create cool tones with it, especially with like samples and synthesizers and virtual instruments these days. Like these things are just different paintbrushes and tools for you to apply to a canvas.
Well, before we go, is there anything else you want to share or plug?
I mean, you can check out my YouTube channel basically. If you're interested at all with seeing like unique instruments or unique like obscure elements of like music history. That's something I've been developing and trying to add to just about every week or so lately. I've got a whole series of shorts that might be of some interest to people, but that's essentially what I'm grinding away at right now.
You heard it. Check it out. That's Ben Two T's Elliott.
Oh yes, thank you. Yeah, sorry about that. It's yeah, I've had credits miscredited to me in the past because of that stupid second T. Like it just so dumb.
Well, Ben, thanks. It was great talking to you, learning about you, learning from you, and I wish you success.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure, John. You're tremendous.